The AFC Championship matchup Sunday between the Chiefs and Ravens will most likely come down to who has the better day at running the offense, scoring touchdowns and not settling for field goals, and avoiding turnovers. This week, with a ticket to Super Bowl 58 on the line, Jackson is changing his tune and knows the Lamar Jackson-Patrick Mahomes matchup hype is real.
I believe it's just two greats, up-and-coming greats, just going toe-to-toe, you know, like a heavyweight fight.
The two best quarterbacks in all the world are going to be on the same field, and so we're facing one and they're facing the other, so it's I think it'll be a really good matchup.
Sunday will be Mahomes' 6th straight AFC title game with the Chiefs and Jackson's first ever. But the Ravens' MVP-nominated quarterback for his play this season has a very big advantage in his corner to get to his first Super Bowl, the Ravens' defense.
The defense is the driving force of, you know, why we're at where we're at. As an offense, when you sit back there and you have the confidence that the defense is going to get the job done, you know, it makes our job a little easier. So we definitely rely on them.
It's a Ravens defense that could get the return of cornerback Marlon Humphrey for the first time since his December 31st calf injury. Humphrey practicing again today and moving well. The only Ravens player not on the practice field was cornerback Rock Yassin. Reporting in Owings Mills, I'm Morgan Atzit for Sports Unlimited.
Well, coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, a long day for City Council President Nick Mosby. We break down his hours-long testimony in Marilyn Mosby's mortgage fraud trial today. Outrage over a convicted rapist who was reportedly allowed to attend a Baltimore City public school. Why some juvenile sex offenders are allowed to go to class with other students.
City Council President Nick Mosby testifying for hours today in Marilyn Mosby's mortgage fraud trial. We take you live to Greenbelt with an update on today's proceedings. MONSE has a new permanent director who Mayor Brandon Scott officially named as the new leader. A Project Baltimore investigation reveals a convicted sex offender was allowed to attend a Baltimore City public school, why some say they want tougher restrictions on juvenile offenders.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
If I get caught, I'm going to participate.
City Council President Nick Mosby on the stand for hours today, testifying in his ex-wife's mortgage fraud trial. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. The 2 counts of mortgage fraud stem from Marilyn Mosby's purchase of 2 Florida vacation homes. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been following this legal battle now for 2 years. She spent the day at the federal courthouse. Joins us live now from Greenbelt. Mackenzie.
Mary, it was a long, emotional, and often contentious day in court for City Council President Nick Mosby. He was called to the witness stand to testify on behalf of the defense around 10 o'clock this morning and stayed there for pretty much the remainder of the day. Cross-examination really didn't start until about 4 o'clock this afternoon. That came after nearly 2 hours of debates and conversation among the attorneys on both sides, as well as the judge, about what questions would be allowed to be asked during the cross-examination. Before we get to the contentious aspect of the cross, I want to go back to his original testimony, and that's where the City Council President fully took ownership of the couple's tax debt. He says that he was responsible for paying their taxes, and it was his responsibility for paying off the tax debt that continued to accumulate year after year after year. And he did so, he said, without Marilyn Mosby's knowledge. It wasn't until October, or in between the time in which Marilyn Mosby bought that first Florida vacation home in the Orlando area and the second vacation home in Longboat Key, that's when Nick Mosby says she found out about the tax lien, because a reporter texted her asking for a comment about why there was a tax lien on the home in Baltimore. Before then, Nick Mosby says Marilyn Mosby did not know about it, but during cross-examination, that's where really the government really started to try and poke some holes in his testimony. The prosecutors are saying that Nick Mosby knew and told Marilyn Mosby about the tax debt going back to 2015, and that's really where we saw the temper started to flare. Everyone was talking over each other. The judge having to step in and tell everyone to take the temperature down just a notch so people could continue their thoughts, and then Nick Mosby could continue his answering. Now, this cross-examination is not over. We expect it to continue when court resumes on Monday. Mary?
What about the $5,000 that Nick says he gave Marilyn to help with closing on the home in Longboat Key?
Yeah, so that is really where we are expecting to get into more details, perhaps on Monday when the cross-examination resumes. But if you remember, that $5,000 was because Nick Mosby said that he was going to loan Marilyn that $5,000 so she would have enough money to close on the Longboat Key. But Nick didn't have that enough money in his bank account to do that. Instead, Marilyn gave him $5,000. He then shuffled it around, and the jury saw a flow chart that was entered into evidence detailing where that money went and how it ended up from Marilyn Mosby's bank account to Nick, shuffling around, and then back to the lender in Florida so that she could close on that Longboat Key home. The gift letter also was brought up. That's where Nick Mosby and Marilyn Mosby told a lender that Nick was giving her as a gift that $5,000. We expect more questions to be raised and asked during cross-examination again when that continues. But Mary, I have to tell you, this trial really started last week during jury selection. Opening statements were on Monday, and we're nowhere near the end of the defense's witnesses. They expect to call at least 2, perhaps even more witnesses after Nick Mosby is done. So this trial is far from over. And again, everything will resume on Monday. We're live in Greenbelt. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Kenzie, thank you. And Fox 45 is continuing to follow some breaking news tonight. Mayor Brandon Scott has appointed Stephanie Mavronis as the permanent director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, effective immediately. Mavronis became interim director in June after former director Shantae Jackson stepped down. Tonight at 10, we'll take a closer look at what this could mean for the future of MONSE.
A lot of sex offenders are very opportunistic, and putting them in a school, there's a lot of opportunity there.
Outrage tonight over a Project Baltimore investigation that found a convicted rapist was allowed to attend a Baltimore City public school. We have team coverage tonight, beginning with Project Baltimore's Chris Papps, as he explains under current state laws, some juvenile sex offenders are allowed to be in class with other students.
This is eye-opening data just released by the Department of Juvenile Services, which shows statewide juveniles were charged with about 338 felony sex offenses in fiscal year 2023. We can't see how many individuals were charged, just the number of offenses. Out of the charges that have been resolved, about 12 resulted in juveniles being committed to a DJS facility, while about 48 resulted in probation, meaning the juveniles who committed those 48 sex offenses could have ended up back in school. Just like the 15-year-old student at Patterson High School who received probation for sexually abusing a 3-year-old relative in May 2023. Records show the 15-year-old entered a plea in Harford County to second-degree rape, a charge that does involve intercourse. But he was not sent to juvenile detention. Instead, DJS recommended probation and counseling for sex offense-specific treatment. As a convicted rapist, he was ordered to have no unsupervised contact with children under 15. In January, just days after entering his plea, the now convicted rapist returned to class at Patterson High School in Baltimore City. Lisa Jordan, the executive director of the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault, has been an advocate for sex abuse victims for more than 20 years and says it's important for Maryland to not forget about the victims.
You know, I think it's very important that we protect juvenile justice, that we are respectful of all children, but the way the regulations have been written in this situation, they don't seem to take victims into account at all. Second-degree rape, that's a serious charge.
Coming up tonight on Fox 45 News at 10, a closer look at the juvenile offense data provided by DJS. We'll also tell you specifically what Jordan says Maryland needs to do to keep students safer in public schools. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Parents and victims across the state are sharing similar concerns, many of whom are now calling for a change to the criminal justice system to give victims more protection under the law. Tonight, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor spoke with legal experts about the changes they want to see.
Yeah, time and time again, victims are telling Fox 45 that DJS isn't doing enough to hold their attackers accountable. It's leaving them to live in fear while their offenders walk free, a problem that legal experts tell me is up to lawmakers to solve.
I wouldn't wish what we have gone through on my worst enemy.
Fearing for her daughter's safety, a Baltimore mother shielding her identity as she sounds the alarm on a juvenile justice system she says failed to protect her child and others.
This juvenile offender is allowed to continue to live his life completely normal.
According to court documents, her child's 15-year-old convicted rapist legally allowed to return to class at Patterson High School without notifying parents and students.
The court pretty much gave him a slap on the wrist. There was no justice for my child.
He tackled me and then punched me in the head and I got kicked.
3 months ago, another victim of violence speaking out.
I was afraid I was going to get shot because you just don't know, you know?
Surveillance video capturing a brazen attack in Butchers Hill. A woman assaulted and robbed. Police later arresting a 12 and 14-year-old who they say attempted to steal the woman's car. Just 2 hours later, the victim claiming a DJS supervisor, calling to tell her the suspects had been released.
The law, I'm pissed off at the law.
Frustrations echoed by police and prosecutors across the state.
They come in, we can't detain them, they're back in the community the next day.
Our problem is the system, and the laws just aren't working.
The message that the Department of Juvenile Services is sending youthful offenders is that you will not be held if you commit violent crime.
According to local attorney Jeremy Eldridge, under the new juvenile justice reform laws, DJS's newfound authority to release young offenders instead of referring all cases to a judge or the state's attorney is what's repeatedly leading to a lack of accountability.
It used to be, under the prior administration, that if an individual was charged with a firearms offense as a juvenile, that they were automatically held. And with this new law, it took away the state's attorney's ability to come in and say, I disagree with the DJS decision to not prosecute and to divert the case.
Recent DJS decisions raising red flags for the state's attorney include an 11-year-old arrested 13 times for stealing cars. Officers writing, due to his age, he was released without charge.
There's nothing the law will allow us to do to hold them accountable, and they're doing whatever they want.
And in the case of 18-year-old Tristan Jackson, who's facing nearly 60 counts of attempted murder and gun charges in connection to the city's worst mass shooting in history, a DJS representative present as public defenders requested Jackson be transferred to a juvenile facility.
I've talked to other criminal defense attorneys who looked at this and, I mean, jaws hit the floor.
Local attorney and activist Eurypsy Morgan arguing the leniency of DJS leadership sets a dangerous precedent.
There's no reason that the residents should be the ones that are afraid. It should be the criminals who are afraid of getting in trouble. But there is this massive disconnect, and it is making residents less safe.
Both Eldridge and Morgan warning, until the laws are amended to reinstate clear consequences, the consequence of rising juvenile crime will continue to be felt statewide.
And those new juvenile justice reform laws took effect in June of last year. Already since then, both police and prosecutors reporting historically high juvenile crime across the city. Reporting from the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Is social media an environmental toxin? The mayor of the nation's biggest city certainly thinks so. I'm Atra El-Nashar with how top officials say parents can act right away.
New York City is now the first major city in the nation to designate social media as a public health crisis. Sinclair national correspondent Atra El-Nashar has been tracking this issue. She joins us live from Capitol Hill with the very latest on it. Good evening, Atra.
Hey, good evening, Mary. We are seeing officials across the country and across the political spectrum attempt to take on big tech. Dozens of states are suing various platforms for allegedly putting children in danger. But one of the biggest tech companies tells me they're spending years, they have spent years, working on ways to make their platforms safe. The mayor of America's biggest city taking on an issue parents across the country wrestle with every day.
Companies like TikTok, YouTube, Facebook are fueling a mental health crisis by designing their platforms with addictive and dangerous features.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams comparing social media to tobacco and guns. The city's health commissioner, Dr. Ashwin Vasan, issuing an advisory encouraging adults who interact with kids to implement tech-free times, discuss social media use in an open-minded way, and model healthy social media use.
We cannot stand by and let big tech monetize our children's privacy and jeopardize their mental health.
Scientific research is inconclusive. The American Psychological Association notes using social media is not inherently beneficial or harmful to young people. Platforms have been taking steps to address concerns. On Thursday, Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook, added measures to protect minors from unwanted direct messages. And coming soon, a parental control for teens with supervised accounts if they want to change a setting.
Like who can message them, what their privacy of their account is, what their sensitive content control setting is. To anything more open, their parent is going to have to approve that.
Meta tells us it's not commenting directly on Mayor Adams' remarks, but said the use of the word addiction is often political, not scientific, and pointed us to their other safety features they say directly refute claims its platforms are dangerous, like help alerts for self-harm and eating disorders. Meta also facing a lawsuit brought by New Mexico's Attorney General, arguing Facebook and Instagram put minors in physical danger, alleging human traffickers searched Facebook for attractive young girls and sent them messages telling them that they were pretty and asking if they would like to make some money. Now, Meta also tells me they work with the authorities and child safety experts to root out predators on their sites. Mary, they say in 1 month alone, they disabled more than 500,000 accounts for violating its child safety policies.
That is so many and very, very scary for parents. Some top tech CEOs, Audra, will speak on this topic next week. What should we expect to hear from them?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing this. The Senate Judiciary Committee is calling the CEOs of Meta, X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, Snap, and Discord to testify next week, Wednesday, for a hearing that's focused on online child exploitation. And Mary, if it's anything like past tech hearings, it will be tense, to put it mildly, especially considering that the CEOs of Discord, Snap, and X had to be subpoenaed.
Oh, interesting. All right, Audra Al-Nishar will be watching. Thank you.
And now let's take a look at our next weather maker. We're in the middle of it right now with some rain and some fog developing over Baltimore, making it pretty tough to see the Inner Harbor at this hour. We've got some light rain falling there too, so that's not helping matters. We have mild air pushing in, so mild air pushing in again along with the moisture, and that's resulting in the fog and the reduced visibilities. We're in the mid-50s right now. We are seeing visibilities drop around Baltimore down to a half a mile there. You'll notice the densest fog is actually across the bay along the eastern shore there, and then just to our north and east too. But fog will continue to fill in overnight tonight, and that's going to have an impact on your drive tomorrow morning. We also have some rounds of rain headed our direction tonight before the next round arrives this weekend. So right now some showers are pushing through the Baltimore area. I think that's going to continue from here on out tonight. Right now, some showers are moving through, and Future Scan is showing that. I think more will show up around 11 o'clock tonight. After that, we should dry things out for your Friday. It's definitely going to be foggy tomorrow morning, but mild before this cold front actually pushes through. Cooler air will work its way in behind that for the start of your weekend. Saturday starts off dry, but then here comes the rain again, moving back in Saturday evening, overnight Saturday through early Sunday morning. That's when the steadiest rain pushes through, and then we transition over to more on and off showers for the Ravens game Sunday afternoon. On the backside of this weather maker, some cooler air wraps its way in, and I think we're looking at the potential for a few wet flakes. No real accumulations from this, just a chilly rain to wrap things up Monday morning. So a quick look at your weekend forecast shows mild for one more day. We'll enjoy the low 60s tomorrow. We are tracking another round of rain late Saturday into Sunday. Plan on showers and breezy conditions on Sunday, along with cooler temperatures too, and highs in the mid-40s. So here's what we're expecting for the Ravens game on Sunday. Mid-40s at kickoff with rain likely. Scattered showers throughout the game with temperatures falling into the low 40s. Plus, it's going to be a little breezy too. So rain jackets and layers will definitely be needed for the game. Now, in just a couple of minutes, we'll take a look ahead at your full 10-day forecast, and I'll let you know when the rain's finally going to clear out of here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
That's one way to get the snow down. It took just one poke for this man to get the hanging snow off the mall roof in Wisconsin. Check out the perfectly formed light pillars in northern Michigan. The effect is created when light is refracted and reflected by flat, tiny ice crystals in calm and cold conditions. The light usually comes from street lights, but any light can be a source.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington with a look at the growing battle over the southern border and why change may be a long way off.
The fight over razor wire along the U.S.-Mexico border is not letting up. Tonight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he will continue to block U.S. Border Patrol from getting into parts of his state and cutting through the wire, even though the U.S. Supreme Court sided with the Biden administration on the matter. Here's Christine Frizzell with an update.
The standoff at the southern border not letting up. Instead of allowing the federal government to cut through the razor wire in Eagle Pass, the state of Texas is installing more. In a statement, Governor Greg Abbott declaring the federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states.
The authors of the Constitution knew there would be times when the federal government would not live up to its duty. And so they empowered states in Article 1, Section 10, the right of self-defense.
This despite the U.S. Supreme Court siding with the Biden administration, which argued it alone has the federal authority to secure the border and to remove the razor wire as it sees fit, which the White House says is necessary.
It's unfortunate that there is a governor in Texas, Governor Abbott, who has politicized this issue of what's happening on the border. And it's not making people's lives safer. It's actually making it harder for law enforcement at the border to do their job.
This battle between the state and federal government has been unfolding as the federal government has been trying to take action, with bipartisan legislation in the Senate nearing completion, but now facing a new hurdle, with more and more Republicans publicly opposing it.
This supplemental bill
is a kamikaze plane in a box canyon with no exit, headed for a train wreck.
Others blame an empowered Donald Trump for trying to tank the deal.
The border is a very important issue for Donald Trump, and the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling.
As the drama deepens in Texas, more and more evidence of the impact nationwide, including more than 2,000 miles away at Boston's Logan Airport, where more than 100 migrants are said to be taking shelter. Other options and resources running out. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Now let's talk about that 10-day forecast. We are tracking a couple of rain chances to get things started. First rain chance wraps up early tomorrow morning. Second one arrives overnight Saturday and into your Sunday, having an impact on the Ravens game here Sunday afternoon. That one should wrap